Hey there, nerds. Jimmy Palmquist here, and I have a little TV review. So last night, after much anticipation, the pilot episode of Black Lightning was aired. It was an hour long, but it was about 45 minutes of actual airtime. And a little history of myself. I would take family trips, usually to Florida where my grandma lived. Along the way, my parents would stop off and we'd go to a gas station or what have you, and I would be able to get a comic book or two. And this is the early 80s. And one of the early ones I got was a little collection of DC comic stories. And it was a little mini, and it had like Legion of Superheroes and a whole bunch of other things. But I distinctly remember Black Lightning. And the image, I don't know what story it was within the whole lexicon of canon of Jefferson Pierce, but I remember that there was a guy in a green suit strung up on a basketball hoop, and it was like the imagery was amazing. It's like, holy cow. And again, it's long ago, I don't remember this story. Ironically, I still have that comic book, which is very, very cool in my opinion. So when the TV show was announced, I was pretty excited. But added to that excitement, a couple years ago, my local hometown paper, the Medina Gazette in Little Medina, Ohio, ran a little story about a local comic book writer. Now, usually in a small town, you have a local comic book writer. It's nothing. They wrote little comics in the news or in the newspaper or something. Well, not this one. This is about a gentleman by the name of Tony Isabella. Now, I did not know Tony Isabella. I moved from my little hometown about 15 years ago to live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I haven't been there in a while. But knowing that, I was like, holy cow, that is so cool. Now, at the time, he wasn't really involved with DC Comics. There was a rift. They weren't really giving him credit for the characters he had created, namely Black Lightning. So there was definitely a rift with him and DC. The nice thing is, and he's a very, very nice, sweet man. I was going back to my hometown, and I reached out to him and asked if he would be open to meeting and just talking. And I had a very enjoyable lunch with him, which led later to a written interview with him on Nerdlocker, and just a really nice guy. So they announced they're making Black Lightning. They have a pilot episode going, and it's great to track Tony and his involvement and his excitement as the premiere was going on, and this 66-year-old writer who has seen it all in the industry. I mean, he's touched the golden era, been through the silver age, and obviously modern day, and in fact is now releasing a new Black Lightning storyline, which is this one set in Cleveland, which is so cool. And it's called Cold Dead Hands. It's a great read. Check it out. But it's just exciting to see him get all these accolades and his due, basically, for creating one of the very first African-American superheroes. That aside, so my excitement was high. I really wanted to see this, and I hoped they would treat it well. I was a little nervous from the trailers because I felt like they were a little goofy, like we were going to have a little 90s X-Men outfit, and which might lead to not great storylines. But I thought the trailers did capture sort of this this hero that is different than anything we know. So watching the first episode, almost immediately it's pressed upon you that it is we're going to be dealing with real social issues, and it was good to see because, you know, we have billionaires who lose parents and they use that wealth to make themselves sort of vigilantes and such, whereas in this case we have an African-American man who, this is not a typical origin story, so we don't necessarily know going in. We know Jefferson Pierce, but if you've never seen it, you don't really know his history. But going in, we see a black man who's just trying to do social justice and make his community better, minus the superhero aspect of it. And it really is because of his family that he is forced to bring him back, to bring Black Lightning back. And that's one of the things I really like the way they told this, is that this isn't an origin story in that we're learning of a hero who's getting his powers. No, he had his powers, and he chose not to use them. He swore he would not use them. And now, because of something that I think just about any father could imagine, he has to use them in order to protect his family. And I think that, yeah, I understand what that is. I get it. I would totally use my superpowers if I had to protect my family. I really like Cress Williams, who plays Black Lightning, Jefferson Pierce. I really liked how he sort of captured the essence of this character. And again, I am not the most well-versed in Black Lightning. I don't remember the early ones because I was early 80s. I was a kid. I am familiar with Cold Dead Hands, which I think has started off fantastic. Side note, kudos that that's set in Cleveland. I love that. But what I like so far is that we have a realistic situation. We're dealing with realistic situations. Obviously, I'm a white guy. I don't know what it's like to be African American, but from reading newspapers and watching the news, I feel like they're getting that across with the social issues. And it's interesting to see in a comic book world. I mean, let's be honest, comic books aren't real. So to bring that real world into it, to me, is fascinating. And then the villain. Obviously, we have bad guys, but the main villain, Tobias Whale, wow. We get a glimpse of him, and I don't want this to be spoilers, so I don't want to go too far into it, but the way in which he shows his dominance over his subordinates is really telling. And I like also how there's sort of an aquatic nautical feel to it, but it's definitely like, I'm going to inflict pain on you, but at the same time, it's in a way where I control your movements. And it is impressive the way they do that. So for a pilot episode, given what we've seen from the CW before, which, as odd as it sounds, I think the CW does superhero TV shows really better than anybody else. I think Netflix does a great job, but that's not broadcast, so I don't really count it. I'm talking about broadcast TV. I think CW does it best. I think this is one of the best pilots I've seen. It's definitely one of the best introductions I've seen to a character in a universe. I have no idea if Black Lightning is going to be included in the rest of the so-called Arrow universe. But I really, really am impressed with what the CW did. And kudos to everybody who's working on it. I love the characters. I love the supporting cast. I love his go-to guy, sort of his Bruce Wayne. I love, sort of his Alfred. I really like how they tell that story and how there's a relationship there. I can't wait to see more. I'm going to keep up on this one, and I really want to give a shout out to Tony Isabella and all the hard work he's done over the years to finally get this character in the limelight, and all the people that brought him to the limelight, and obviously Trevor Von Eeden, who drew the original Black Lightning. You guys deserve everything you're getting, and I hope it continues, and I hope this show is a hit. I really enjoy it, and I hope everybody out there in Nerd World checks it out. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Black Lightning on the CW.